Millions of real estate agents throughout the country get into the business because they realize that the real estate industry is unique in the sense that you're able to influence your own income more than most other professions. However, few of those real estate agents are privy to a conversation that we're bringing to you today from Katie Hardman. She's a CEO and a team leader, and we really go into helping you identify what are the questions that you need to be asking in order to identify the life that you want to be building, and then the business structure that you should be pursuing in order to build that life. You're going to love this episode. You're going to love Katie. It's really going to help you get clarity, which will give you not only direction, but motivation. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart, and I'm very excited today to bring you a guest that's going to help you determine and make sure that your ladder is up against the right wall. I'll explain more about what I mean here in just a second. If you find value in this show, it would mean the world to me if you would like, comment, and share this episode. If you're listening to the podcast, please give us a review. That allows this content, this amazing content that you're going to hear today from a great leader, get spread out to more people. I'm grateful for today's guest. She's an incredible leader herself. Her name is Katie Hardman. She's a CEO and a team leader. She's been for the past 10 years in the real estate industry, developing leaders, developing the next generation of leaders. And today we're going to talk all about how this concept of the purpose of business is to fund the perfect life. How do you know what the perfect life is? How do you decide on what business structure you should be pursuing to get that perfect life? So with that being said, I want to thank and welcome Katie Hardman to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. Thanks for coming on, Katie.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. What an honor to be asked and to be on this. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, one of my great mentors spoken very highly of you for several months. So it's been really fun getting connected to you and seeing the many talents that you bring to the table. I'm always grateful to have people on that are big thinkers from other parts of the country. It's always super fun when they're from kind of right in my marketplace, Portland, Oregon. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Let's talk a little bit, Katie, about this concept of, I know you meet with agents all day, every day, and I'm in a consultative type role. And one of the things that you talk to them about is this concept of how do you decide kind of what the perfect, because let me back up a little bit. Is it most people, when they're getting into business, they'll just kind of they'll look around the office and they'll say, I guess that's what business looks like. I guess I should follow that path. Sometimes, as I described at the beginning, is they'll start climbing this ladder and they're like, I don't want this life, or I don't want this production. I actually want to do much more. And the people who I've been following, who have been my mentors, aren't really getting me to where I want to go, right? So you've got this expertise of sitting down with people and really kind of asking and evaluating, like, what is it that you really want, right? Talk to us a little bit about maybe why that's important, why you found that to be enlightening for the people that you've spoken with.
Yeah, I think that it's a great question, because I believe, and I would argue that most people, maybe there's some that think differently, but most people don't get into business, don't start a business to work. The purpose of doing that, to getting into that business or starting that business, is to fund something. And it's typically a bigger life. And so when I sit down with an agent, whether they're brand new to the business or have been in the business for 20 years, it's the first conversation I want to have is, well, what's the purpose of your business? Like, what are you trying to fund? What are your goals in life? And let's make your business fund those goals. So it's more than a conversation about, okay, I want to close 100 transactions. Well, what's motivating about that? Why do you want to close 100 transactions? What does that do for you in your life that is going to get you through the tough times? Because, right, like, this business isn't all rainbows and butterflies every single day of the week. And like you said, when you're climbing that ladder, there's something more to the conversation than just a number. It's, do you have kids? Do you want to go on vacation? Is it experiences that you want to have? What is that life worth living that you are striving for? And then we can set your goals around that.
You find that when you ask that question of why, I think sometimes people kind of settle for surface level answers, right? So, like, what do you want your business to do? I want to make $100,000. Okay, great. Why? Well, or, I want to close 100 transactions, right? Maybe that's kind of on the other end of the spectrum. Like, I want to do this. Why? What answers do you get when people, when they put out a number that seems like the right number, like seems like a valuable goal, right? when you start to dig deeper, what's the response? Do people know what to say right away? Do they seem surprised that someone's asking that question? Or like, I'm just curious, kind of how do people respond when you start digging deeper and say, well, why that? Okay, well, why that, right?
Yeah, it's a personal question, right? And if you've never been asked that, then it's a hard question to answer. And yeah, it's easy to say $100,000 because that's an easy round number. And I think that'll fund my life, or that'll pay my bills. And so it's exactly what you said. It's asking more questions to really figure out what it is that's one needed. So what money do you have to make in order to pay your bills? But then what vacations do you want to go on this year? And it doesn't have to start with, in 30 years, what is your life going to look like? Because I think that sometimes is the hard question is, well, gosh, I don't know. I don't know what my life should look like, what I'd like it to look like. And sometimes that's too big to think. And so starting small and just saying, okay, well, this year, what experiences do you want to have? What vacations do you want to go on? What are you passionate about? What charities do you want to give money to? Do you want to tithe? Do you want to do things like that? And just dreaming for this year and saying, what would be, if we were sitting here a year from now and we said, gosh, this was an amazing year, I accomplished all my goals, what would that look like? What would you have done? And then we can say, okay, well, now we know that it's going to cost this much to live that life. Let's put goals in your business together that will ensure that you hit that. So it's diving deeper. It's asking more questions. It's really doing some self-reflecting too on what is important to you in your life, who is important to you, what things sound fun to you, and then just going from there. So it's just asking a lot of questions and getting to know you, or getting to know the person that you're asking the questions to, so you can help them self-discover.
I'm a big believer that sales is leadership. And in fact, a little bit of a selfless plug. I'm creating a series on my YouTube channel called Sales is Leadership, where I'm going through it. And you hit the nail on the head. The question that you asked, like if you could, and I'm going to paraphrase what I think I heard you say, and then I want to put an exclamation point behind it because it's so important for people to ask this question and of themselves. Everybody listening to this, I'd ask this question. If I were to get to the end of 2020, or if I were at the end of 2020 right now, and I were to look back and say, it was a total success, I absolutely loved what happened in 2020. Then fill in the gaps of, tell me why, right? Why is that? Like, that's a really powerful question and a powerful place to take people. And going down this theme of, like, again, sales is leadership. Your job is to lead people to this reality of where they could be, where they are and where they could be. That question really begins to help them uncover of, like, oh yeah, what would it take for me to be happy with how things turned out, right? Which is kind of, I think, a great way for them to really start to answer that question of, like, what's the business I really want to fund, right? Because what they should be answering it to, to your point is, well, yeah, we went on this vacation and I paid down this amount of debt and I've got this much in my business savings account. And I've invested in kind of these forms of leverage, and I'm feeling really strong going into 2021. Like, to have people kind of say that, then what's the follow-up question? Like, once they kind of say, oh yeah, like what would make me happy would be this, how do you then proceed? How do you help them take the next step to start to, like, make those things come to life?
I think that, and to back up for a second and just put an exclamation on your point, is it's a different way of thinking, and it's the gift of being in a business like real estate, where you control the outcome of your business and how much money you can make, where in decades in the past, or a traditional way of thinking is you go get a job, you're on a fixed income, and so you don't get to make those choices. Yet when we have the opportunity to be in an industry where you set the ceiling on your business, then you get to ask those questions. And so it's a true gift to be able to think that way. And I think that's also why it's hard for people sometimes to think like that, is because traditionally you get 2 weeks or 3 weeks of vacation a year and you make X amount of money, and raises are out of your control, right? You can hit a certain performance metric and you get those raises, but ultimately it's the company's decision. So getting the opportunity to ask those questions is powerful, and we owe it to ourselves to think like that, and we owe it to our families to think like that, because like I said, we don't get into business to work. Maybe some of us do, but the purpose of business is to fund that life. So ask me the question again.
I think you answered it. And this is what's really fun about the way yours and my mind works is we get off, like, we have a great idea and we just run with it. And what you just ran with was super valuable. And in fact, kind of what the question I think you already answered, right? Which is, how does somebody know what kind of life they want to fund, right? And what you helped all of us to do is to kind of fast forward to this point in time in the future, and then look back and say, what happened that made me so happy with where I'm at right now, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And now I remember what I was going to say about the question that you asked me was, so yeah, we look in the future and we say, this is what we want it to look like in a year, in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, whatever that is. Then we come back to today and we say, okay, now let's put some plans in place to ensure that that actually happens, because now we're excited about that life and we want to live that life. So, I mean, if we're talking just tactical things to do today, is you build the business around you. And that starts with get your calendar out for the year and put those activities on your schedule. I'm going to take a vacation this week and this month. I'm going to go to this field trip with my kid on this day. I'm going to have this experience. I'm going to give this money. Put all those things on your calendar, because then when we step into the business side of things, we know, okay, well, we have X number of days that we're willing to work this year. And then we can say, okay, well, we need to, and it's going to cost this much money to have all of these experiences. Then we can work backwards and do the math of the business and say, okay, well, we need to have this many closings, this many this month, this many this month, based on the calendar we've put in place for our year, not the year, but our year.
I love it. You've kind of taken it, even to the next step, which is, okay, once you decide what is the life that I want to build that would make me super happy with the results, right? Both from an income standpoint, but also from an autonomy, free time standpoint, right? This fact that hitting a certain number and having zero time off and zero time with the people that I love, that's not the life I want, right? So part of this conversation for you, right, is helping people to kind of unlock from maybe this singular focus of like production, right? I'm going to hit this goal, hit this goal, this goal. Okay, well, great, but what else, right? Like, what else matters to you? Because I know a lot of people who perform at really high levels who look pretty miserable, right? Their relationships are struggling and their health is struggling, right? So it's about kind of looking at the holistic view of really what's the life you want. And then to your point, going backwards, what I heard you say is really going back and saying, okay, let's reverse engineer that, right? Let's go back and say, okay, what's it going to take to get that vacation and fund it, right? Have the time for it and have the money for it, and do these other things, right? Because then it's more of a math equation, right? As opposed to just this kind of guesswork, like you see a lot of agents do, where it's like, I think I want to make $200,000. It's like, okay, well, let's talk about why. And what have you found, Katie, as you help people through this process, as you're kind of guiding them down this path, do you get a feel that their motivation to actually do the work deepens as they lock into the reason why, as they lock into the reason of, why am I doing all this work, instead of just some ambiguous number or some ambiguous, vacation days? Like, with more clarity, what do you see happen with these agents? What's the difference in how they show up to work? Do you see a difference in that?
Especially right now. Like, you asked that question and I immediately think that's showing up right now in our current environment, right? Like, we're in stay home, stay safe, quarantine, whatever you want to call it, phase 1 of COVID-19. And so it's really a test on, are you motivated? Is your, in my world, we call it a big why. Like, is your why big enough or strong enough, or is it something that is motivating you to continue to get up every day when the world has completely changed? Like, are you still motivated to, when the days are hard, when things are weird, when life shows up, that's when it matters to have something bigger than, oh, well, I just want to make $100,000. Because when things get hard, it's, oh, well, I'm okay with 90,000. or I'm okay with 80,000. And so that's why I get passionate about this subject, is because I truly want that life worth living for everybody that I'm in business with. And so, gosh, I want to fight for your goals, and you've got to want it. And so that's where, yes, tying it to something that is bigger than a job or work gets important.
And how valuable it is to have somebody that's in a leadership role or an accountability role around you that is a strong enough leader to be able to extract that from you, right? Someone who's actually capable, and capable meaning they've got the skill set, and desirous meaning they've got the heart to actually care enough to be able to put those two together, to come to somebody and say, let's uncover this and bring clarity for you, right? So that then you have that. And then now you know what that is. Now, and I love what you said there, the people with whom I'm in partnership with, right? It's not just about them and their business. Like, you're taking some ownership as to their results, right? What does that look like? Obviously, you're in a leadership role within a brokerage, very successful brokerage. How do you then show up in their lives? Once you know those things, right? It's not just for them, it's also for you. What do you do with that? Like, how does that help you help them?
Oh gosh, I mean, like, so personally, like, now I feel ownership over that too. And I'm like, I'm committed. I think it's a level of commitment. Now that I know and I see that passion, then I've bought into it as well. And I want to hold you accountable to hitting those goals, because I see how important it is to you. And I see that you want to spend more time with your family. You want to, and I mean, in your case, right, 6 kids, you've got a lot of love to give. So I want you to spend that time with your family and be able to provide for them, because that's the life that you chose. And this business you chose to help you get there. And so it's my responsibility, and I want to coach and consult you to hit those goals. And so what it looks like is, let's be in contact. Let's be in constant conversation about that. I always tell people to, like, write your goals down. There's a study about that, right? And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's a high percentage of people who are actually more likely to hit their goals when they write them down versus those that don't. So write your goals down. Let's meet once a month. Let's have this conversation. Let me help you grow. I mean, I talk to hundreds of agents. So what's working, what's not, let's work this out together, because I'm just as committed as they are.
Boy, how powerful is that, right? It probably makes your life and role super gratifying. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the people, right? It's about really helping the people get the life that they want, the one that they can look back on and say, man, 2020 was an amazing part of that. And they can say, boy, Katie helped me get there, right? That's got to be super gratifying for you. It's almost like you have all these many wins. They talk about how success is obviously, getting results. Significance is where you get results through other people, because now there's multiple layers of that success, right? You and for other people. Let's talk about, once you have that, right? Once people have the clarity of their why, and now they're looking at, okay, how do I accomplish this, right? There's different structures that a real estate agent, kind of different business structures that a real estate agent can do that. We see solo agents, we see small teams, right, where they've got maybe just administrative support and or maybe a showing assistant. You see larger teams where they actually have everything from listing agents, buyer's agents, even leadership roles within those 2 departments, whole operations staff. And at times they'll even go bigger than that, and they'll have expansion, right, where they've got groups doing what they're doing, but all over the country with one kind of central hub. How does an agent start to determine, what do I want? Maybe it's just a solo agent. Maybe I want to be involved in every conversation with clients, and that's what they love, right? For sometimes it's really people who have a passion for business, and they don't necessarily love the transaction side, but they really want to grow a business and find significance, meaning success through other people. How do you help people kind of guide them through what that looks like for them? Like, what's the best alternative for them?
That's a great question. And I think there's two things that really guide that conversation, or 2 questions or times where people decide, do I love to do my business on my own, or do I want to grow a team, which is what you're talking about, right? Like, small team, big team, expanding, it all ultimately leads back to, does what I'm doing now fund my life worth living? Does what I'm doing now give me all the things I need in order to have that life that I've set out? And it really comes down to the two things, which is, do I have the time? Right? So I'm an agent, a solo agent on my own, and I'm hitting my goals. I'm making that money, yet I'm spending all of my time in my business making that money and don't get to enjoy it. So when we're talking about, do I want to be a solo agent or do I want to go and build a team? Well, if you don't have the time to enjoy your life worth living, then that would be one time when you would think about maybe starting a team to leverage off some of the responsibility so that you can go and have more time back. The other time is if you're not making the money that you need in order to fund that life worth living. So if you're maxing yourself out on time, like you're trying to hit those goals and you just don't have any more time left in the day to build your business any farther. And typically for a solo agent, that's 24 to 36 transactions a year. So if you want to live this big life and you're like, gosh, I've just maxed myself out on time and I'm not hitting those goals, then the conversation is, okay, well, let's add some leverage to your business so you gain back time so that you can go and get more business and build it to the size that you want. So ultimately the answer is it depends on what your life worth living looks like. And do you have the time and are you making the money that you want in order to do that? And if you are, say, yes, I have the time, I'm getting to do all the things that I want and I'm making the money that allows me to do those things, then I think you're having a fabulous business and a fabulous life. So the conversation is different depending on the person. And it's really catered to what your goals are as an individual. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. How's that? I have on my bookshelf behind me, and I've studied it, I don't know how many times, the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is really written by Gary Keller, but it's really his research and a textbook type approach to researching agents from all different brokerages around the country to find out who did real estate at the highest level and then really learn from them. And I think to some degree that's caused people to have this philosophy that if you're with a certain brokerage, that you have to do business a certain way, right? So for some brokerages, they get the reputation of it's solo agent or nothing, right? And like, we don't do teams here. I would say for Keller, probably the stereotype, right, is that like we do big teams here. And if you don't want to grow your business to that level, then this probably isn't the fit for you. I think stereotypes, I think we're learning in our society are not a very healthy way to treat people or even organizations, right? Talk to us a little bit about how you've maybe run into that a little bit and your response to that when you get that feedback of like, you know what, your brokerage is pigeonholed as this, right? So therefore it's not for me. How do you respond to that?
That's a great question because yes, absolutely get that stereotype. And I think it's important to know that the majority of the agents at my office, Keller Williams Realty Professionals, and in Keller Williams as a whole, the majority of agents are solo agents. So it's about, again, going back to the individual. And yes, there is a platform for teams, mega teams, millionaire real estate agent, expansion, all those things that you said, because Gary Keller's philosophy is make a world big enough for your people. And that's your duty as a brokerage, is to create an environment where your people can continuously grow. And yet if you have the time and the money and you're living your life worth living, then the duty of the brokerage is to create a space where you can do just that. So there's nothing to say you have to be a millionaire real estate agent or you have to build a 7th level team. It's exactly what you want the business to look like, and the support is there, whatever that is.
Interesting, because that's definitely not what's said or taught, right, about the brokerage that you're at. So it's really interesting to hear that to hear you say that the majority of agents at your brokerage are solo agents. What is, I mean, an organization that really obviously kind of came up, or at least created a strong model for the team. Talk to me about solo agents and how they would benefit from again, an organization that has teams all around them and may even seem like it has an emphasis on that. Like, how does that, I'm taking the gloves off here a little bit, so don't take this wrong, but I want you to defend a little bit. Why do you think Keller does have that reputation of being for teams, and maybe solo agents don't feel like maybe they're living, and again, this is coming from the outside, right? But I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on that. Like, what does the value proposition look like for somebody who says, look, I only want to be a solo agent, yet you've got this millionaire real estate agent that teaches me to to build a big team? And you kind of answered it a little bit, but I want to go a little bit deeper on it because I'm curious.
Yeah, totally. And totally willing to be transparent on that. We do have big teams for sure. And so I think people see that, right? Because those people are doing a high volume of transactions, living their life worth living, or striving to be that. And so those people get put on panels or are part of conversations. And yet that's one side of the business. And as someone who leads a brokerage, one of the things that we do, or that is important to do, is to make sure that there's a system and a model. And Keller Williams wrote the book on building teams, so I think that's where that comes from.
Sure.
Is there's really three types of models. There's a dependent model, there's an independent model, and there's an interdependent model, right? So making sure that as a dependent model, you help the agents who need accountability, they need structure, they need support, they need systems, they need that coach or trainer to help them. And then also making sure that there is a place for people who want their independence and just want to plug into the training of KW, or people who are interdependent and want there to be a give and take in the relationship, where they come in for the constant coaching and they plug into the transaction management and the marketing that Keller Williams offers, and there's a platform for all. So I think it's just, be transparent. Probably haven't done a good job telling that story. And yet there is a place for all of them. Yeah. And there is a model, and there's a structure, and there's a system for it.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said before. I mean, it's kind of coming together for me a little bit. And I appreciate you kind of answering the tough question, right? Because I know that that's a common conversation in the marketplace. I've seen it as well, right? I'm privy to be in a unique spot in that I'm an independent third party, and I get to be able to go kind of be a fly on the wall to a lot of different brokerages, and I hear conversations about it. And I love what you said at the beginning, which is it's about finding what life do they want to fund. And then at that point, you decide what business structure they should adopt, right? And it doesn't mean that one is better than another, but it's more customized to what that particular person, the life that they want to fund. And I would encourage everybody that's listening here, regardless of what brokerage you're at, that you need to be asking these questions of what's the life ultimately that I want to fund, and what is the business structure that's best going to support that, both from an income standpoint as well as from a time off standpoint, right? Like a quality of life standpoint. And then answer the question for yourself. What does that, like, what business model should I adopt? And who are people that I should be following? And what organizations should I be, getting close to that can help me do that, right? And kind of listen to the source as opposed to the stereotypes, right, that are out there about different brokerages. So that's great stuff, Katie. I appreciate you answering that question. I think that's helped me at least. Let's talk a little bit about, as the CEO of one of the biggest, most productive real estate offices in the Northwest, right? You were chosen to take on that role just this past year. Why do you think, of all the candidates, and there were over 50 candidates that were brought into that, why do you feel like you were chosen? What's the unique strengths that you bring to the table that kind of put you in a position to be in that unique and really impressive spot at such a young age, right?
Yeah, and gosh, hate talking about myself. So thank you for making me uncomfortable. Um,
Twice. I did it twice now. I'm really taking the gloves off today.
One of the things that I always tell people when hiring someone for their team is you look for a track record of success. And been in the business 10 years, have worked in multiple states, in headquarters, and building next generation of leaders. And so I think that one, I have the track record of success, and two, like truly like this isn't a job for me. When I tell people, like, what is your life worth living look like my big why, the thing that fuels me is just this: coaching and helping people to live their big life, and figuring that out together and seeing it happen. So I think that track record of success is something that got me on the radar for being a part of this office. And then the conversation, or the thing that's going to fuel the success in the role for me, is truly being passionate about business. I have my degree in business, which was many, many years ago, but I've always had a passion for business, and more importantly, a passion for people. So always looking to grow people, to help people, to have high level business conversations with people, to help them figure out what that life worth living looks like. And the other thing I would say to somebody is, you want consistency in leadership, and I'm not afraid to show up every day and do the work. So there's that.
I love it. I think we're probably very aligned. That's probably why we've hit it off, is this fact that I think the industry needs more than just customer service representatives, right? Your office needs more than just a warm body to be there. It needs a leader. It needs people who can have business level conversations. And, I take that seriously in my role in, title and escrow, that there's a need for an increased value proposition, simply because the need for real estate agents to innovate and offer more value to the marketplace, to be able to justifiably, right, earn the commissions that they charge is necessary. Like it's important that the industry, as the bar raises, that those of us that support the amazing agents that go out and do the work of getting listings, working with buyers, that the support team around them, people like you, right, people like me, that we are helping. We're not just friendly people there to give hugs and offer CE classes from my regard, or people to say, hey, how you doing? Good morning. Welcome. Thanks for coming to the office. Like, for you, it's got to be something that actually helps them move the needle in their life and their business. And my thought is that that's probably why you're selected, is your ability to do that, to really, again, not just be a friend, although I'm sure you're that as well, but you're actually able to help people grow business, right? To help them do more business and even more than just that, but help them be sure that the business that they're building is right for the life that they want to live. And I think that's a huge theme I'm learning from you here today. Let's jump to the signature question of the show, Katie. You're a big thinker. You've done some impressive things already, and I feel like your story in this industry is even just starting. That there's going to be amazing things that continue to happen from you with the mentors and leaders around you, and with everything that you are doing at such a young age. What do you do as a big thinker to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities? Please teach us that.
I knew you were going to ask me this, so I made sure that I thought hard about it. And my immediate reaction to the question was the saying that you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So surrounding myself with people who think bigger, never being the smartest person in the room, I think is key. Anytime you're wanting to grow, wanting to think bigger, there is somebody who is. And so go and seek that conversation out, or seek out that room, or get into those conversations. And then my trick to making sure that I do that is I always volunteer to be the interviewer, or like you do, right? Like, you get to have amazing conversations with amazing people. And someone recently told me that the smartest person in the room isn't doing all the talking. And so I have always been super passionate and been the one that raised my hand to say, I'll be the interviewer, or I'll moderate the panel, or I'll be the one that takes notes. Like, always volunteering to be a part of those conversations so that I can learn from others and I can be in the room with those people and get into conversations that wouldn't happen otherwise. So that's my little tip or trick for anybody that wants to be a part of those conversations or to grow into those circles or those sums of 5 people is volunteer your way in, or gain those skills to moderate or interview or take notes, because I've grown so much from that.
It's so funny you say that, Katie. Just this past week, we reached out to a gentleman who had been a guest on my show, asked him to keynote at a class we were doing. And he said, it's $3,000 for a 30-minute segment. And I was like, he didn't charge me anything. Right. And I just had on a couple individuals this past week, Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin. I know at one point I was with a group that was trying to get them to come out and keynote. And I think it was at least $25,000 for Chris, and maybe 15 for Jimmy. Like, it was some big ticket items. And without batting an eye, they, based on a warm introduction from someone that they trust, and like, they came on my show without sending me an invoice. And it's interesting how when you have a platform, whether it's through a panel, whether it's through some sort of way of interviewing people are willing to give away their time if they feel like it's contributing to kind of the larger good, like the greater good. And if you can position yourself, like you said, as being the kind of at the doorway of that, like all of that knowledge and information runs through you, right? I always encourage agents to go interview people in their city and broadcast it, right? Because number one, it's great for the community. That person's likely to do it because they care about the community. And two, not only do you build a great network, but simultaneously, you also get the added knowledge of just being in that conversation. Like, it's just a fantastic model. So I'm glad you said that. I'd never actually heard it or articulated it in that way, but it has opened my eyes to the amount of big thinkers that I get to associate with that I otherwise might not be able to, because of your strategy that you described of like not being the smartest person in the room, being comfortable with that, desiring that, and being the person that's asking those questions to the big thinkers. So thank you for being one of those big thinkers for me today. It's always so fun to learn from people like you, and it's been a total pleasure. Thank you for helping us identify clarity in what life we want to be funding, and then talking about business structure, right? How do we actually choose a business structure, as well as answering some of the tough questions, right, that I threw at you today, which I think were really helpful for everybody. So it's been great. It's been super fun getting to know you. I'm super excited about continuing the friendship. And I want to thank you for everything you've poured into the audience and the show today. Again, I want to remind everybody that if this has been valuable, please let us know. That allows the show to go on, and the show must go on. And my final request of everybody are these 3 simple words, and they are: go, think bigger. Katie, thank you so much for helping us do that today. Always so fun to interact and communicate with you.
Thank you. It was a true honor. I appreciate you.
Bet.